October, everyone, and welcome to the second conversation in our October series. My name is Minola Jacques. I am your co-host for the next hour. We have Jessa backstage taking good care of us, and we prepared an amazing lineup of speakers for today. Today, we will be discussing about culture as the advantage and basically how people first or people-centric cultures impact the business and the business strategy. It is Tuesday for most of us. It is already Wednesday for some of us, but it's always the best day and the best time for a Hacking HR conversation. I'm so happy to see that the comments are already pouring in, and we have literally people from all over the world listening or watching us. It's always such a joy. So, the only thing that runs faster than this year is the Hacking HR Hour. So Jessa, please do help me bringing up the people on the stage. And while they are coming up, I will just encourage everybody in the audience, do consider this conversation as much yours as it is our speakers. Drop your replies, your comments, your thoughts in the chat, and just network and connect. I'm sure that the speakers will keep, just as I will, a lens and an eye on your comments, and we will definitely bring the highlights into our conversation. So, welcome everybody. Welcome Madana, Anuj, Rod, and Jason. Such a joy and such a privilege to witness this conversation from a front row seat. I will start with our signature round, and this is the easiest round. It's the round of introductions, and I will ask you to shortly introduce yourselves. And also, when you hear culture is the advantage, what is the thing that your mind prompts you to say? It can be a word, it can be a sentence, or it can be a value-packed, please hear, short story. So what I will do, I will pass the e-mic around on my screen clockwise. That means Madana, you will lead us, and then Jason, you will wrap this round up. And let's begin. Madana, welcome. Good to see you.
Good to see you and great to be here. Thank you, Minola, for this opportunity. And hi, everyone in the panel. Great to see you all and be learning from you all. Yes, I am Madana. I know the closed captions will probably show it as Madonna, but anyway, that's a different discussion altogether. Just call me Madana. And yes, I go by the moniker of servant leadership evangelist. I'm so passionate about this topic that that I people started calling me that, and then I accepted that as the moniker that I typically use. And coming to the topic, culture, and why is it attractive, and why am I here? Because of that topic is because that's what I do. I drive the cultural transformation in organizations because the concept of the servant leadership that I evangelize is all about building a culture. And it's not a skill, it's not just a role level, but it has to be a culture felt all across the organization. And of course, we all have heard the cliche that that culture is a strategy for breakfast. And it's so true because immaterial of what your strategy is, unless we have the right culture within the organization, it's not going to be successful in the long run. So yeah, culture definitely is the advantage. And of course, today we are going to look at what's the importance of a people first culture, and which is even more exciting for me. So I'm looking forward to learning from all of you and hopefully share some experiences from my side. Great to be here. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. And I totally feel your pain. I have Minola misspelled or mispronounced so often. I ended up doubting that I do it correctly myself. So right there with you. Anuj, welcome. Good to see you.
Hi, Minola. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to my fellow panelists and everyone who's joining across from different parts of the world. My name is Anuj Kathuria. I am from Mumbai, India. After having spent 21 years in the corporate ladder, I decided to find my own company and commenced my own company called Cognitio, which works in the area of culture, HR technology.
Is it
Coming
is
to
it
your
just
question, Nola. Sorry.
you're broke up a little bit there, so I don't know if it's my connection or your connection that it's a little
Hello?
bit playing up. Yeah, we can hear you now.
Is it better now?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. My apologies for that. I was saying, coming back to your question, uh, two things come to mind when I hear the term culture is the advantage. Number one, it is the penultimate truth, nothing beyond that. Number two, it makes me realize, or for that matter of fact, it makes me reminisce about the mistakes I've made, the right things I've done when I've tried to work in the capacity of a culture catalyst, some failures, some successes being on all three sides of being an employee, of being an HR person, and being a business person as well. And looking forward to this session, looking forward to learn and share whatever little I know with my co panelists. Thank you.
Thank you. And welcome from the future, Rod. So grateful that you're going the extra mile. What time is it? 3 a.m., 2
It
a.m.?
is. Oh, it's 6 minutes past 3 in the morning.
Our
which is-
hero panelist.
Oh no, I wouldn't say that. All right. So yeah, I'm Rod Hutchings. I've got a pretty diverse background. I'm a transformation manager for Kyndryl. I'm an Air Force officer as well in the Australian Air Force, and I'm also into high performance volleyball, which you can see some volleyballs behind me. And so the thing that rounds all those things up is what I'm really passionate about is high performance teams and getting the best outcome for teams, and the best way of getting the best outcome for teams, whether it's in volleyball, the Air Force, at Kyndryl, it's all about being people first. It's about creating an environment to help the team get the best outcomes and supporting the team do that. So looking forward to the conversation today about culture.
Thank you so very much. Jason, welcome. Good to see you.
Thank you. Good to see everyone again. And to Rod, I'm just a blast from the past, I guess, for you. So, I'm pulling up the rear in the Eastern time zone of the United States. So my name's Jason Rissoli. I've had quite a career spanning a little over 2 decades in HR and labor relations. I'm actually in between roles right now and looking. But that doesn't stop me from practicing and being but a teacher and a pupil at the same time when it comes to HR. So this is a topic that really I'm passionate about. When looking at, and I always go back to Maslow's hierarchy of needs. This is your love and belonging within an organization. That's that middle sandwich of the hierarchy of needs, where people sit. And my slogan that I kind of think about when I think of culture and people is the power of people. Right? Nothing can make a company be more successful or explode with talent and success from it than what comes from the people within an organization. And then also, I always go back to what Rob was just touching on a little bit is the team approach, right? So one team, one goal, one focus, and a lot of that goes back to, again, mission, vision, and values of the organization. What's the company's purpose, and does everyone on that team believe in that purpose, okay, of what that company's out to achieve? That really gets that buy-in. So looking forward to the discussion today, and I know we're going to have a great topic to talk about. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, everybody. And let's start with a little bit of demystifying. We oftentimes say people first cultures or people friendly cultures or people centric cultures, whatever combination of words we use. And it sounds pretty much self-explanatory, but then if we dig deeper, it's truly embedded with so many assumptions, projections, and individual interpretations. And Rod, I particularly loved all this layering of consulting and Air Force and sports. And I would really invite you to lead us into this bit of the conversation of what is a people first culture? What does it look like? What does it feel like? What are its identifying elements?
Look, I think the people first. I think the main thing is that employees, whether it's employees, support team members, is that they're not just seen as resources. You're seen as individuals with particular interests themselves. So being connected to that was mentioned earlier about being connected to the why, that common purpose, but you need to be supporting each individual in the team, understanding where they're at, whether it's what training they need, whether it's what resources they need to be successful, getting that alignment. It's just all about comes all back down to the individual, and you focus on those individuals, you give them the support that they need, and everybody wants to do their best and they'll do their best. That's what people first means to me.
Thank you. Well, this is the moment I pronounce the unmuting competition officially open. So please, who wants to go next? Let's see.
Well, let me pick up on what Rod said. Rod, thank you for helping us jump into the topic. I think there is virtually no organization which will ever say that they don't value people, right? I mean, you go back probably several decades and it will still be the same. Everyone would say that, yes, we value people. But the question is, what do you value people as, or what do you value people for, right? We all have heard the term, the hired hands, right? So, and I'm sure those of us who have done some research on this would know that, prior to 1970s, that was a commonly accepted term for employees, right? So the question is, do we value them as hired hands who are just good enough to, come and bring and use their skills and, and then contribute to the organizational success? Or, as the term evolved and became human resources, do we value them as resources, right? As resources, again, probably a sweeter and nicer way of saying that, yes, we value you as long as you contribute to the organizational results. Or can we go radical and, and then ask that question, can we and do we value them as individuals, as human beings, as complete human beings, right? I think that makes that shift. And so when we talk about a people first culture, I think that question must be, on top of our mind. We all value culture, people. We all say that people are our asset. These are all common things. There's nothing, great about those things. But what do we value them for? What do we value them as? Do we value them as hired hands? Do we value them as resources who will contribute to the organizational results ultimately? Or can we value them, or do we value them as individuals, human beings with emotions and ideas and, everything else that goes around the human being? I think that is the radical question that probably one may need to ask when we look at what is a people first culture.
And this is, let me jump in for a second. I agree wholeheartedly. And this is what's great about topics like this is, we're all in HR, we're supported one way or another. And regardless of the industry, culture is of importance, like we've talked about, and it's pretty much cross-pollinated from that perspective. And what I could say is that one person doesn't necessarily run a company, but one HR person could be a playmaker to help facilitate game-changing performance and game-changing cultural, establishment within a company. So, you get that one HR person, and it could be someone that's on this call. It could be a panelist, could be someone listening right now. I think it goes back to everyone knows what they want, but what framework and structure is being set up to support those goals when it comes to culture? Do you have the right communications? Do you have the right learning and development? Do you have the right DEI strategy? Do you have the right cultural agility? Has your management team been trained on how to manage those folks to the best of their ability? What OKRs or goals have been set that align to the mission, vision, and values of that company? Does that individual, like we're talking about, know where their spot is? What's the importance of their role? And what's the importance of getting them to the next role, compared to that company? I use an example often, and I talk a lot, I'm sorry. But, the janitor that cleans up the bathroom, right, is extremely important when it comes to being a health food store, because who would go into a health food store and then go into the bathroom and see a very dirty toilet and dirty bathroom? That person, it's critically important that person does their job effective, because that has a perception of the entire company, of that store, and then the entire company. So those things go hand in hand. Everyone needs to know the importance of their role. So again, it's great because HR, we could just plug and play any of us into any company and set up the framework for success and be a playmaker.
Thank you. Anush.
Well, I have a slightly different view, but also agree with most of my panelists. See, we always look at things from our lens. The more you talk about culture, the more you realize there are so many missing pieces and there's so much to learn about it. To me, there are two parts to this equation. Part number one, culture and business strategy are not separate. Culture and people-oriented business culture, in fact, is a very key ingredient of your people or business strategy. Without it, what you have is just a blueprint in air. Yes, you will get certain results, your EBITDA or your revenue market share or your customer market share and your some other things, but sustainability doesn't happen. So number one, culture and business strategy are not separate. They are pretty much tied together. Number one, that's one part of the equation. The other part, if you look at culture, it is essentially, in a layman's term, the way of working. How do we work in this organization, right? It's not about what we do, it's about how we do what we do. When you look at that, a people oriented culture stems, or for that matter of fact, covers everything from the time somebody is a potential candidate for your organization till the time he or she becomes an alum of your organization. Now, you could map 300 to 400 points where there would be interaction or moments of magic or moments of misery or touch points. At each of those touch points, are you able to give every single individual an experience which is hyper personalized and hyper contextualized? If you can do that, to me, that is a true testament of what you call as a people oriented culture. And there are five, in my mind, I read it in some reports, and I'm trying to kind of mix those because some of those I also have followed myself and some I've created myself. There are five essential elements to this. There is enablement. In your organization, are people enabled? Do they have the autonomy needed to do what they are supposed to do? Are you making it easy for not only your employees, but even your customers to do what you intend for them to do? Is there engagement within your organization and with your customers at every single touch point? Is there entelechy, which is, are you looking for ways to unleash hidden potential, or do you have innovation as a core trait? Is there empathy and trust in this organization and with the customers? Or for that matter of fact, last but not the least, ennoblement, which talks about being worthy and important. Do people really feel I am part of this organization? It's not about fitting, it's about being belongingness. If you are able to create, these are the core tenets to me of what you call a true people oriented culture, which becomes an advantage. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. I just want to acknowledge a little bit of energy in the chats around the culture narrative. The outward looking culture narrative oftentimes over promises and under delivers, and then internally the culture narrative can be perceived quite fractured. And I believe, Madana, you called it out very early on that basically everybody claims to have a people first culture. So please lead us into a conversation with everybody claiming that they're the people firstest culture ever. What is the differentiator, and how can we really spot those organizations that actually do walk their talk?
Yeah, thank you, Manola. I think as I said, I think the key question that one needs to address is how do we see employees as, right? And I think I one of the all of us, I'm sure all of us love Henry Ford, right? And his what he has done for the automobile industry and the revolution. But there's a very infamous quote associated with him, and he's supposed to have said that, look, why do I end up with a whole person every time when I hire somebody, when all I need is a pair of hands to work on my shop floor? And this is Henry Ford, talking, right? Not just you or me, right? Now, so that is the basic, that has been the basic premise of employees, right? The employees, the organization has got a vision, the organization has got its values. I mean, the goals and stuff like that, that the employees are primarily here to serve the organization, reach those goals, right? And it is somebody else's, role to bring up ideas and all that stuff. So the idea was, the message was very simple, right? When you come into work, come into the organization, chuck your emotions, chuck your feelings and ideas and all that outside, just bring in and use your skills so that we can. So typically what happened is we adopted the whole HR system, whether it is rewards and recognition, whether it is performance management, whether it is learning and development, all of them adopted around that concept that people are a resource to be used. So take an example. Take, for example, the L&D space, right? Everyone will say that, yes, we are interested in the development of the employees, right? But then let's say there is an organization, there's an IT organization where photography is probably not a core skill that you require. But if an employee is interested in pursuing photography as a skill development activity, will the organization support that? As the organization will be eager to support if that person is probably picking up some course on generative AI as it is today, right? So will we be willing to invest in the holistic development of that individuals as against the monetizable skills of the individual, right? So those type of questions, what amount of well-being will we be talking about? So it's a whole ecosystem of obviously learning and development, rewards, and what do we really reward them? What do we recognize them for? Right. So I and of course the amount of diversity that comes into the organization, right? The whole amount of the whole aspect of are we willing to invest in their emotional well-being? Are we willing to train them in emotional healing and emotional intelligence and stuff like that, right? So the whole ecosystem around people practices, if we may call it, will need to change our mindset from looking at employees from being resources to be used or as a means to achieve something, but as an end in itself. That is, you anyway invest in the people, you inspire them, you motivate them, you develop them, you help them to grow, and know that when you do that, they will help the organization achieve the results. So are we willing to go to that extent where we can see organizational results as a byproduct rather than as the only place where where employees need to contribute to and get there? I think if we are able to make that radical mind shift, that is when we can truly claim to be, a people first culture, right? And then you look at, I mean, when you come to leadership philosophies, there are obviously a lot of leadership philosophies out there, and all of them claim to be people friendly, right? And I always make, I think Minola referred to this, but I do make a distinction between what we typically call as a people friendly leadership philosophy as against a people-centric leadership philosophy.
Mm.
People-friendly leadership philosophy is where the leader will say, yes, I love my people, I'll inspire my people, I will develop my people, I will motivate my people, etc., etc., etc. And then we'll stand up and say, my number one priority is organizational results. And to achieve the organizational results, I will do all that. Now,
Yeah.
a people-centered leadership philosophy is probably what we should be looking at. And a people-centered leadership philosophy is where I will say that is, look, I love my people, I will invest in my people, I will develop my people, I will inspire my people, etc., etc. And hey, and my my number one priority is people, because anyway, I'm going to do all that. And when I do all that, I know that they will contribute to the organization's success, right? So that's the shift from being people friendly to people centric. And that's really what we should probably be, driving at for truly, getting into a people first culture.
Thank you. I almost feel like a whole new panel, if not a whole new series around this. So please continue the conversation. Let's see who wants to go first. Jason.
Yeah, sure. Well, I agree 100% about people centric. Okay. One thing I think that we have to make sure that we're cognizant of is how we're understanding whether or not success is being had within that. Is it, what key performance indicators, KPIs or metrics are being used to measure that within the organization? Is it retention? And again, before we talked about what part of the life cycle too, right? So there needs to be many different touch points within the life cycle, the new hire employee, the perception of a candidate of that, the sentiments towards that company, all the way through the post-exit interview sentiments, as a former alumni of that company. And different levels within the organization. To that point, there needs to be KPIs that are set, which again, HR is most likely there to help facilitate the structure for data gathering and data intelligence, is to understand, is it retention? Is it employee engagement? Is it learning and development opportunities? What within an engagement? Is it different feedback channels, such as not just surveys, but town hall meetings, roundtables? What other structures in place to gather this information? But it's not and two-way, two-way gathering. So, from a feedback loop perspective, as well as 360 developments within the management standpoint of the employee development, and the manager development, employee relationship. So again, there needs to be data collection to help measure the success of whether or not you really are an employer of choice when it comes to being employee centric. And then going just back to that other point though about Henry Ford, every part of that car is important, right? So that car that he designed, it's, an employee is a part of that car. That one employee might have made a fuse, and guess what? That fuse, when you turn the key, if that fuse doesn't work, it might be a 50-cent fuse on a $500,000 car. If that 50-cent fuse, doesn't allow that car to start, what good is the car? So every employee, going back to what I said before, you need to understand, every employee needs to understand the importance of their role in the critical success of that company. Okay. And that's what makes it employee centric, is making them understand that they are important. They are important to the greater purpose. So thank you.
Thank you, Jason. Rod.
Yeah, I'll just bring, I guess, my experiences relating to what was just said. I think accountability is really key. Like all organizations will write down these are the elements that make up their culture. But how is the accountability held? And is the accountability, so if I bring the Air Force experience, one of the key things in the Air Force is like you plan a mission, you execute a mission, you debrief the mission. You have what you call like a rankless debrief. Like you can go and analyze what just happened, and you can voice your opinion irrespective of what hierarchy there is in the organization. So you've got trust. So trust, I think, is just so critical, that what the cultural value statements are is that, can you live that? Can you walk that? And can you do that comfortably in your organization? I think that is really critical. And that same thing, again, applies in our, high performance sporting teams, in national volleyball teams. It's about you've got to be willing as a player.
Yeah, I think there's a bit of a internet connection issue there, isn't it? Let's see.
Just to jump
Anush.
into what Rob was saying, though, no, and trust and transparency. Leadership, set them in towards the leadership team. To reinforce that. And again, you can have one part of an organization that is, and Rod's back, so I'll let him jump back in and finish that thought. But it's different. You can be very effective in one part of the business or with one leader, but then another leader be really really hurting your employee-centric employee engagement model. So, accountability, I think, is what Rob was talking. I'll turn the mic back to him so he can continue.
Yes, I'll see how I go. Yeah,
Well,
I think I was trying to get across. It's really about being consistent as well. So if you say these are your values, you consistently apply them. As soon as you go out off kilter, you're going to lose that trust. So you need to be consistent. You need to be able to, it's not just top down, it's actually peers provide feedback to each other, holding them accountable for like a little basic thing that at a fighter squadron that they do at the start of the day every day. Everyone gets the watch. You make sure your watch is on the same time, like very basic thing, but then you're synchronized all day and you keep each other accountable, keep each other safe.
Thank you. Anush.
To me, there are three distinct categories in this. Number one, what is not measured is never delivered. Now, different organizations have different means to measure whatever they call the culture or certain behaviors, or for that matter of fact, ways of working. And my fellow panelists did speak about them, feedback and things. My point is, do we measure every single touch point that impacts every single customer and every single employee? The answer is no. There is no organization in the world which does that. Yes, companies are striving to do that. I think the true testament or a characteristic of what Dr. Madana said, a true people-centric culture is where if I am a spoke in the wheel, I know how I contribute to the wheel movement, number one. Number two, across the realm of, from the time someone is a candidate till the time someone is an alum of the organization, every single touch point that he or she goes through, is there a mechanism of feedback? Number three, very, very important. See, in today's times, we shamelessly cut, copy, paste the good parts of other organizations. And it's right, it saves time. But the fact is, you cannot copy a different organization's context. Your context is very different. Are you fine-tuning that to your context? Which means, are you being authentic? Are you just doing for the heck of doing it? Or you truly believe that this is going to impact my business results? So when business results are out, are your HR KPIs linked to business KPIs? If not, I'm sorry, you should tear down every goddamn document you have about culture and throw in the garbage can. It's all air. It's all air. If your people matrix are not linked to business matrix, you are talking in two different directions. And last but not the least, is there co-creation? When you give feedback for every single thing in the organization, do you get a chance to create that? Or is it that you only have to buy what is being shoved on your faces? You might have come from different places. There could have been better way of doing things. Is your voice heard? I think I heard Rod say that. Is your voice heard? Is there trust that I will not be penalized for voicing my opinion? Is there authenticity? That's why I said those words, engagement, fine. Enablement, fine. Is there ennoblement? Is there entelechy in the organization? If you do not have that, and at the cost of reiteration, if your people matrix do not speak to your business matrix, sorry, You're making a sham of everybody and just saying, yeah, we have a good culture. We are working on culture. That's what my experience and belief is.
Thank you. I see that your answers to this question really got standing ovation in the comments, and we are a few minutes in the second half of our time today. I will just take a few seconds just to welcome those who joined us a little bit later, and also I want to answer a few questions in the comments. Yes, this conversation is being recorded, and then whether you want to enjoy all of it again, recommended, or simply go back and make sure you capture bullet points and key takeaways, you will find the recording either in our LinkedIn space or hackinghrlab.io. Now, it's almost no conversation makes it in the second half before data and insights and analytics is being mentioned. So, Jason, given the fact that you were the first one to mention the magic word, which is data, I will ask you to lead us into this round of talking a little bit about what are the metrics and what are the indicators that can really measure, track, inform, and shape how culture and business strategy are kept in sync.
There's a lot of common metrics that are used and that people will use. I mean, you look at employee engagement of perception of the leadership team that's there, the alignment to the business goals of what they feel is the right business strategy, as well as training opportunities and career advancement, and then the normal C's of, safety culture, work environment that provides benefits and wages that are competitive. But I think it goes more than that, though. I think it's the cadence of when this data is collected and to who it's being collected from. So it's I actually, there was a subset population in my last employer that we actually asked them for data every single day. We had over 3,000 people. We asked for survey, a pulse survey feedback every single day. It took 30 seconds, if that, for them to do. And it simply was a thumbs up or a thumbs down on that day. The amount of data and then there was ability for them to give us open text after that if they wanted to add some additional. The amount of data we got from that one simple thumbs up or thumbs down pulse survey was better data than we could have gotten from any engagement survey, all the other surveys that we did combined, because it was real-time data every single day. And we had over a 90% participation rate of over 3,000 people. So the amount of participation throughout the employee population, then you can break down the demographics of that employee, analyze that over trending over time, tie that back to Anusha's point about business, how they were performing on that day, okay, or how many hours they worked that day. There was so much data we could get just because of the cadence of how we got feedback of, did they have a good day or did they have a bad day? And then we could track and see, and intercept employees, at those different times of what was causing that. So so it's not just about what the KPIs are, but the cadence of collecting that data and making sure that you have, good, a good response rate around that. So, but yeah, there's just a lot of commonalities around the KPIs, and I'm sure the panelists will also jump in on what they think are some good ones.
Yeah, I'll jump in. Like we're talking about people first and performance. I think coming from a consulting company, like one of the very basic metrics is revenue per employee. As that increases, we expect that's showing the people first sort of culture initiatives are translating into results. So that's an important one. Absenteeism, like, are people staying away? How often does that happen? So looking at that really can provide insights. Net Promoter Score, 360 feedback was spoken about, I think, already. And one that I'm passionate about is supporting the progress of individuals within the organization. So really looking at what is the internal promotion rate versus bringing in people outside into the senior roles. So how are we supporting and growing our employees is a really key thing.
Yeah, I think just like any other data, I would probably say that this also could potentially be seen at three levels, right? I think the first one is obviously what do you see, or what are the behaviors, and that's where what Rod highlighted, the 360-degree comes into picture. Actually, I have developed a 360-degree instrument, and we use it quite extensively at the place where I work, UST, to measure what do others see you behaving. So it's a set of 7 behaviors against which people are asked for, okay, how do we see them behave in this. Of course, the questions are not directly on the behavior, but on observable behaviors, and then they are a back-end algorithm puts it together, and then gives them the scoring against those 7 behaviors that I have developed as part of my doctoral studies. So that's the first level, where you look at what behaviors do we see, right? I think the second one is more at an anecdotal level of what are the changes that you continue seeing, right? The stories that come out of the people, right? What stories are they telling? I mean, and today, nothing is secret, right? You go to the place like LinkedIn, and you can actually see what is the culture of an organization by looking at what are the people posting about, right, in the social media and things like that. So and of course you can go to employee specific feedbacks like the Glassdoor or other independent websites. So all that is there. So what stories are the employees sharing? So again, we may not be able to quantify it fully, though some of the websites try to quantify it. But I think even if you do not quantify it, if you just look at the stories that come out, will be this thing. And of course, the third level is what Rod and Jason already highlighted. What impact does it have on the business metrics, on attrition, on employee engagement, on EBITDA, on revenue, on on the growth and things like that? How do you compare? When you are looking at, how do you compare with another organization who also claims that they have a people first culture but are not performing exactly the same way, right? So that's I think the last this thing. And fortunately today we also have external auditors who can help us come and do that, whether it is Great Places to Work or whether it is the Top Employer Institute. And so several of those those industry acknowledged leaders or bodies also can measure and sort of at least audit and tell us how we are doing vis-a-vis someone else, or again linked with our own last year's performance and stuff like that. So I think there are different levels where one can ultimately, of course, they all culminate on the this thing. But I think the my point is that I think it is probably not appropriate for us to just focus on the measurable, quantifiable data that we will be getting at the attrition, employee engagement, EBITDA, revenue growth, and stuff like that, but also to look at it along with the other things like 360-degree measurements. What do they tell us? What are the stories that are coming out and stuff like that? That is in my view equally important for us to understand what a culture, what type of culture is what that organization promote.
Well, I will digress from. I'm sure my panelists will hate me for saying this, but there was a time when I used to love KPIs. Believe me, my life was KPIs because I've worn the hat of a strategy head as well and an HR head as well. But over this course of 2.5 decades, 2 decades plus, I realized that most of these KPIs are post-mortem. The body is there, the person has died, and then we're doing a post-mortem. Why can't we do this before when the person is alive? Is my key question. So I would like to categorize this into 2 different segments. Number 1, tangibles, intangibles, and existence or non-existence. So number 1, I just said a while ago, culture and business strategy are not separate. And if you have a people-oriented strategy, which clearly means that there will be existence of certain things. So I'll first and foremost check, uh, is there a documented and robust delegation of authority and autonomy? If it's not, I'm sorry, then it's per person. Okay, I will give you autonomy, I will not give you autonomy. Is there, is that written somewhere? A delegation of authority, number one. Number two, most organizations I have known or consulted or worked with, they have a behavioral model or a leadership model. My key question is, where does that model emanate from? Do you have ways of working? Even if you don't have, and you still have a leadership model which is applied across the organization, and from it emanates number of behaviors, some which apply at certain level of people at certain proficiencies, some at some and some same across board. My question is, when you measure business results, we always measure what the person has done at the end of the year. Do you measure how has he done, what has he done? Is the how part there or not? If it's not there, again the same problem. Number three comes the typical KPIs, yeah, which are the post-mortem ones. And yes, some which we check on Glassdoor or this and that, and employee turnover ratio and this. But beyond this, also there are many matrices which gives you a glimpse in terms of how well is your culture doing. What is your how many innovations are you seeing in your organization? How many new value streams has your organization added in the last 2 years? How many of your people are getting awarded outside without paying money, of course? What, and yes, your turnover ratio, retention ratio, what is the actual gap between the longest tenured employee and your shortest tenured employee? I think that gives you a lot of things. And yes, there are levels of analytics. You can go into hindsight, insight, foresight analytics and figure out. But the fundamental questions still need to be asked even before you jump over there and before we get any culture assessment survey done or these things done. That's my viewpoint.
Yeah, one real quick, and one thing I think from an employee centric, one of the best, and again, I hate to throw it that it's a KPI, but it really is what percentage of new hires coming into your company were sourced through a referral of an existing employee?
Yes, exactly.
If you're really an employer of choice and you're employee centric, then those employees that you have want other people they know or in their network to work there as well. They believe. No one's going to refer someone to work for a company they don't believe in or feel is an employee centric. So what percentage, from a KPI perspective, I would look at what percentage of your new hire came through a referral of an existing employee. And I agree 100% with predictive analytics. I mean, that was one of the reasons why we did those daily pulse surveys, is because of the data was able to give us some sort of insight into predictive analytics. Because I believe, yes, most KPIs are postmortem, until you really get down to the behaviors that drive those KPIs. And then once you get into those behaviors, then you can start doing some predictive analytics of those, which are very difficult to do, but very worthwhile if you can actually get them to work. So I agree 100% with that point as well.
Just to add to what you said, Jason, you mentioned about this piece. I'd like to add 2 more points to that. There's something called as infant attrition. How many of your new hires left the organization within first year of joining? Are leaders measured on behaviors, and is their increment and movement dependent on the new skills that they have added, like Dr. Madana said? And how have they treated their people? What is the manager index, people index score in that organization? And for that matter of fact, what truly is the continuous growth path of people's career and of business verticals in that? I think a lot of such KPIs can be added to that. Truly.
We arrived in what I painfully call the Dr. Seuss moment. So this is where, how did it get so late so soon? And we are literally about 10 minutes away from saying goodbye. And a very short confession. I was working towards asking to these people, with a success story. But then probably I'm in the energy of a project I'm running at work. So I'm thinking about setting up a lessons learned office. And the part of it that excites me most is what I call Epic Comeback Library. So I was thinking, let's also leave people with some safety after all this energy and inspiration. And I will really invite you to walk us through a big pitfall of what doing this work of aligning culture to business strategy can really put in front of people, either a pitfall or a misperception or a misassumption. And if we can just take a couple of minutes each and give people some safety. And just as inspiration strikes, we will do this popcorn style.
Okay, I'll go first.
Oh, go on. Go on. No one had to.
Go ahead, Jason. Go ahead.
Okay, so let's do Jason, and then
Yeah, that's fine. I think one of the pitfalls is I think Anu said it before, is you can get lost in the data. You could spend so much time in the data analyzing a KPI, but miss the big picture of how you got to that data. What are the behaviors that is driving that data of how you got to that result? And again, it's so complex. Whether all the KPIs you might be looking at and all the action plans you're developing from it, but understanding the why of how you got there, and not getting lost in the data is there are some very simplistic things that you can look at in an organization that of what drives an employee-centric organization to success. So don't get lost in the data, and understand what the value streams are from that.
Thank you.
Great point, Jason. Great point. Really appreciate that. I'll give 3 pitfalls which I've experienced as part of my journey. Number 1, there is a belief or myth that let's digitize the HR processes and the culture will improve. It never does. Just by bringing in digitization, it has to be digitalization, which is extracting value out of what you're doing. Let's cut, copy, paste the good things that our competitor is doing, increase some rewards, increase some fun and play activities, and increase some benefits, and the culture will improve. It never does. One needs to understand that culture requires an ecosystem mindset. It's like a jazz symphony where every person who's playing is playing the instrument at the right time, in the right pitch, and the right tune. If one person makes a mistake, you don't have a symphony. What you have is noise. So ensure that there is no noise and you are looking at the entire spectrum, not just picking up one piece and saying, okay, I will do this and this will maybe increase 5% of my culture score, or it'll improve 10%. It doesn't. It does not. You have to have an ecosystem mindset and need to figure out, number 1, like what Jason said, why. The why, the what, and the how need to be together. They can't be separate. Thank you.
Thank you, Anuj. Rod.
I think one of the key things is transparency. So if there's not transparency in, say, when you find bad things, that you don't share that, the organization and the individuals aren't going to learn and benefit from what happens. And an example would be, from my Air Force experience, I investigated an Air Force crash where we found that particular actions happened several times, but they were never reported, never in the debrief knowledge base of the organization. And that was because people at the time just didn't feel like it was getting shared properly, didn't feel the trust there. So really, that was quite life and death. So you really need to be able to feel like you have trust that you can be, and the organization is transparent when things go wrong, and they'll share that around to the broader teams. Is a really key thing.
Thank you, Rod.
Yeah, I think the biggest pitfall that we can
Well, how is that for building suspense? We lost you there for a few seconds, Madana, when you just said the
Right.
biggest thing, and we were.
That was a very suspenseful answer,
The secret.
Dr. Madonna.
The secret.
The secret.
I noticed that. Yes. So I was saying the biggest pitfall can be when organizations, start doing this for gaining competitive advantage or for, organizational growth and things like that. I think if you have to go by the basic concept of a people first philosophy, it must be the people. It must be done for the people. And know that yes, when we do that, so if we do it with the purpose of improving our retention or improving our employee engagement or getting more awards or maybe getting more referrals or whatever it is, if we do it with that objective, so that purpose, that why is very, very important, right? Are we doing it with the purpose so that we can get that, or are we doing it because we think the people deserve that, because the people are worth it, because they are themselves sufficient. So I think if the biggest pitfall that one can get into is use this as another strategy to improve your revenues and EBITDAs and attrition and competitive advantage and all that stuff. If you do that, then you miss the point. If you have to really go into a people first strategy, it must be people first, which means we are going to do it because we want our people to be really treated and valued as people. And then we know that yes, the other things will follow. We can measure the result in the other things, but the purpose for which we are doing it is this. And then that's where I actually suggest 4 tenets. How do you use the powers that we have within the organization? Do you use that power so that you can feel important, or do you use that power so that you can share it with others? The second one is the purpose, right? Are we willing to give people a higher purpose than just coming to work and contributing to the organization's success, blah blah blah, or for an organization itself making money, right? Do we have a higher purpose than that? And the third is, of course, the values, right? Every organization has got values, but do the values exist in website and in beautiful conference room posters, or are they actually demonstrated in behavior that is observable and measurable by the people? And the fourth one is a concept that I call as significance, right? Success is when you add value to yourself. You become successful, right? You get a PhD like I did one fine morning, right? And then my wife called me permanent head damage, PhD, right? So you go ahead and get one PhD, but what does it mean to others, right? What does it mean to others? What value does it add to others, right? I think that's the question one has to ask, and that's when you move from chasing success into pursuing significance. So significance is when you add value to yourself with the explicit purpose of adding value to others. So you gain knowledge so that you can help the unlearned, you gain wisdom so that you can help the foolish, you gain health so that you can help the sick, you gain wealth so that you can help the poor, etc., etc., etc. Everything that you do must have a purpose of adding value to others. So that's the significance. So power, purpose, values, and significance. And I think if we follow with these 4, we are unlikely to fall into the trap of using a people first philosophy or a people first strategy as yet another business strategy to gain competitive advantage and shareholder value and all that stuff. They will come, but do not fall into the trap of making that as your objective for adopting a people first strategy.
Thank you. It feels like this was a great rehearsal round for the final mic dropped punchline. So this is really one word or one short sentence, and please don't make me time you. We are 2 minutes away from saying goodbye. What we will do this counterclockwise. So Jason, you will go first. I will pass the e-mic around. Just take a few seconds. So your punchline takeaway, the mic drop moment.
Thank you very much to all the panelists, yourself, Manol, as always. Thank you for everyone that joined. The mic drop moment is camaraderie, working together, a sense of belonging and esteem. Okay, and that will lead to self-actualization, which is the ultimate pinnacle of what employee employees want to strive for, is can they be the best version of themselves? And have we as an employer provided that atmosphere for them to develop like that?
Thank you. Rod.
I think empathy, respect, camaraderie. I love that word from, teamwork, decision making. They're all key elements, I think.
Thank you so much. Anuj.
I'll say one word in a sentence. That one word is be authentic and follow what Abraham Maslow said. If the only tool you have is a hammer, you tend to see every problem as a nail. So please add a spanner, a wrench, and many more tools to your kitty, and then apply the ecosystem mindset. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And Madana.
Right. Thank you. Thank you for giving me the final word. Yeah. So it's a privilege. Thank you. Right. So I would say that if you really truly want a people first philosophy, be willing to invest in the life of another person to the extent that the other person becomes better, bigger, wiser, richer, healthier, wealthier, happier, more famous than yourself. That's it.
Thank you. Thank you so very much, Madana, Anuj, Rod, and Jason. Thank you for being here, for taking the time, the energy. Everybody listening, watching now or the recording, it's such a privilege to have you with us. I hope I will get the chance to welcome you soon again. We have an amazing series of conversations continuing for the October series. And just a quick heads up and maybe a reminder, October 10-11, it's the second edition of the People Analytics Summit. So I will see you there. Thank you very much, everybody. It's been absolutely wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Minola. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day ahead. Bye-bye.
And thank you, Jessa.
Thank you, Jessa.
Thank you, Jessa.